Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Nuts with Ryan Almond. This is week 7 of fantasy football. Start, bench, or on the fence. There are a lot of injuries and COVID concerns this week, so make sure you look at the inactive report 45 minutes before the morning games. First up in the morning games, we have the Falcons versus the Lions. Matt Ryan is a start. As long as Julio's healthy, I'm starting Matt Ryan going forward pretty much. Matt Stafford is also a start because of the porous Atlanta secondary. Ridley's a start. Galladay's a start. Swift is a start on most all teams. Unless you're lucky and you're running back rich, you're starting Swift. On the fence is Hockenson. I'm always on the fence with Hockenson. I'm leaning towards stardom because you probably don't have a better option, and it is the Atlanta defense, but I don't know why. I'm just not feeling Hockenson. Bench, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, Justin Gage. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Those guys haven't done a whole lot of anything in the last little bit. Both defenses should also be benched because this one should be kind of high scoring. Next up, we have the Browns versus the Bengals. In this one, Baker Mayfield is banged up, may or may not play. It'll probably be better for the Browns players if Mayfield does not play because I do believe Keenum is a better quarterback. Cincinnati, we have Joe Mixon has been ruled out, and Bernard is a great play in his spot. He will be gone off all wires by now, but, start Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is pretty much a plug and play for the rest of the season, unless he's injured. T. Higgins has been doing well the last 4 weeks. I'm starting him. Hooper, I'm starting him. Probably not any better options. Bernard already talked about. On the fence this week, there's Higgins, Green, Boyd, and Landry. I'm leaning starting Green and Landry if you need to. I'm leaning sitting Higgins and Boyd. And really deep leagues, 16-team leagues, I would consider Higgins if you are desperate for a receiver. Cincinnati's defense in this one. If Mayfield starts, Cincinnati's defense could be a very sneaky play. If Keenum starts, I probably would lean against it. I'd lean sit him with Keenum, start him with Mayfield. I'm benching both quarterbacks this game because Cleveland does have a decent front. I mean, they can get their interceptions and their fumble recoveries, so I'm not liking Burrow in this one. And, of course, I never like Cleveland quarterbacks. They're always going to be on the bench. And RIP ODB. ODB does not have a rapport built up with Keenum yet, so I'm going to sit him until he builds up a rapport with Keenum. Sit and sample. Again, I don't like tight ends against this middle linebacking core of the Browns. And I'm benching the Browns D because they could get it this week. I just don't trust them.
Steelers versus Titans. I'm really looking forward to this game. We got Big Ben. I'm starting him. Tennessee gives it up through the air pretty decently. They are, I believe, bottom 5 against the pass in the NFL right now. Henry, I'm starting him reluctantly. Pittsburgh is top 2 against the run, but he's Derrick Henry, so I'm not sitting him. Connor, I'm going to play him against Tennessee. They're not as hard-nosed as Pittsburgh defense is, so I'm playing Connor. Both Pittsburgh and Tennessee, if they're giving up fantasy points, it's usually to receivers. So I'm starting both number 1 receivers on these teams right now, Brown and Claypool. On the fence with Tannehill because Pittsburgh D does destroy quarterbacks. I know Tannehill has done a lot of great stuff since the second half of last year, but I'm leaning sitting him unless you have no better options because Pittsburgh defense is why. Juju, I am leaning starting Juju. Most people are not, but Tennessee gives it up through the air. Claypool is becoming a star. I think Claypool can take some focus off Juju. I hear that Juju is now healthy. So we'll see. I'm putting him in my flex, so we'll see. I'm leaning start, but he's on the fence. Both defenses on the fence. I have no idea how this is going to go in the way of defense. You have both teams have good offenses. Both teams have good defenses. This one could go either way, so I'm just reluctant to start either one. I am starting Pittsburgh defense on my team only because I am so desperate at running back. I don't want to pick up a second defense. I looked at Dallas. I looked at Washington. But no, I'm just going to run the Steelers and trust in that steel curtain. Benching Deontay Johnson until I see that he is actually back and healthy. He's been out of commission for a bit and hasn't really done anything since week 2. I'm sitting him until he does something. I'm benching Humphreys. He had a touchdown last week. He had a good game. If he has another good game this week, I might start saying pick him off the wire. Tight ends. Both teams have stout middle linebacking cores. I am going to sit tight ends in this game. Next up is Panthers versus Saints. This one is on COVID watch, so keep your eye to that inactive wire 45 minutes before the game. Other things going on this game, we have Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders have been ruled out. The biggest benefactors from that should be Jared Cook and Traquan Smith. Drew Brees likes to throw, and he's going to have somebody to throw to. So I'm starting Jared Cook for that reason. He is my must-start tight end of the week. Traquan Smith, I'm going to start him too. I mean, there are games where he's real spotty, but he gets his red zone looks, and you got to start him if Drew Brees Drew Brees is number one receiver. Teddy, I'm leaning start him. I do think they're going to air it out a little bit against this New Orleans defense. Robbie Anderson, starting him. DJ Moore for that same reason, airing it out. Mike Davis, I'm starting him this week. He did have a little bit of an ankle taping going on last week, so I'm a little reluctant. But I'm so desperate at running back, it's hard to find a situation where you're going to sit Mike Davis. If you're running back rich, you could sit him, but most everybody is going to start Mike Davis. And Kamara. I don't got to say anything. Start Kamara, never sit Kamara. On the fence with Latavius Murray this week. I'm leaning towards start Latavius Murray because of the Saints are missing all those options I talked about. I do believe they're going to run the ball a little bit more. Latavius Murray should get a little more action this game, and Carolina has a pretty bad goal line defense. So I do see Latavius Murray punching one, maybe even two short ones in. Carolina's D. I am on the fence with Carolina's D with all the recent injuries to the Saints, and the Carolina D has been playing decent lately. I'm leaning start them as a sneaky play. If you don't have a better defense, you can't find a better defense, go after those Panthers. I'm benching Thomas this week. New Orleans is pretty good shutting down tight ends, and Thomas hasn't really done a whole lot of anything yet. I'm benching New Orleans D. New Orleans D is, I don't trust him. I don't think the Saints are going to stay on the field too long, continually all game, so I think that D is going to get tired. So I'm sitting New Orleans defense, and I'm sitting Drew Brees. He has not been performing that well this season. Age is showing a bit, and this game he's going to be without many of his weapons. Jets versus Buffalo. Here we go. We're going to start Josh Allen, of course, because Josh Allen's a beast and the Jets suck. We're going to start Buffalo's defense. That will probably be the all-star of this game is Buffalo's defense because they are just going to hammer Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is supposed to be back. He's probably not going to be back for long. I know Buffalo's D has been a little bit off this year, but it's the Jets. This should be their time. If the Buffalo D can't rip the Jets a new one, I would full out cut them after this game. And Crowder, the only Jet in this entire game that I would even think about starting is Crowder. He does have a questionable tag, so watch his injury report, though, and be ready to swap him out. Singletary, Jets defense, got to start him. Diggs, first string receiver against Jets defense, start him. On the fence with Tyler Kroft, the Jets suck, so if you do need a tight end and you don't have a better option, I would throw Kroft in there. Even the backup running back here. Backup running backs against the Jets get theirs a lot of times. So if you are in desperate need for a running back, check out Zach Moss. Bench all Jets that are not named Crowder. Bench them all. The Jets suck. Jets on the Bench. John Brown, I'm benching him. I still think he is a little banged up. He tried coming back too early last week. I'm going to wait till he shows something till I start him ever again. Cowboys versus the football team. In this one, I'm going to start Zeke. He has been butterfingers the last couple of weeks, and he keeps losing linemen, making his job a little bit harder, but it is the Washington defense, so I'm going to start Zeke. There's not many defenses I would sit Zeke against. Schultz. Washington does not have the best middle linebacking core. I like Dalton starting to develop a rapport with Schultz. I'm starting Schultz. Cooper and McLaurin. Neither one of these defenses are that good where I'm going to sit the number one receiver from either team. Dallas defense. I do like Dallas defense this week. Cowboys should get their sacks. They should get some interceptions, maybe fumble recoveries because Washington quarterbacks are terrible. On the fence in this one, I have McKissick on the fence. I'm leaning start McKissick. If you're running back rich, you could sit McKissick, but he has been supplanting Gibson, slowly taking that number one running back work away from him on top of catching a good amount of passes. I would start McKissick in this one. I think it's a matter of time before he is the guy in that backfield if he's not already. Dalton is rusty. I don't like starting Dalton this week. If you're very desperate, like a 2 QB super flex type deal, I would start him. Otherwise, I'm leaning sit him pretty hard on this one. Bench and Dalton. Gallup and Lamb for the same reason with Dalton being rusty and not enough work to go around, I'm leaning bench those two too. Logan Thomas is on the fence. He could go either way. If you are in a deep league or you're desperate, I would start him. Otherwise, you might have a better option, so sit him. Washington D. I'm leaning start Washington D just like the Dallas D. I think this game's going to be a hard-nosed, highest defensive scoring game. The only reason why I'm saying on the fence on Washington D is because Dallas D is usually available as well, and I'm higher on Dallas than I am on Washington. Bench the Washington QB. Any Washington QB the rest of this year, bench him every game. Gibson, I'm leaning bench now because McKissick is starting to take his work, and I don't think there's enough to go around for Gibson. Even though Dallas's defense is terrible against running backs, and unless you're desperate, Gibson should be on your bench. Texans versus Packers. This is an all systems go, start everyone game pretty much. Rodgers, Watson, got to start in this game. Aaron Jones has a calf issue right now. He's iffy, 50-50 that he's going to play. Make sure you check your inactives report before the game. Have Jamal Williams ready to go if he's not already taken. Start Devontae Adams. Robert Tonyan, I heard he was rehabbing in practice on Thursday, stretching on the sideline, doing that kind of stuff. So if he does not play, you sit him. If he does play against this defense, you got to run him. Starting Cook, starting Fuller. They're really developing a great rapport with Watson. I'm starting Johnson. Green Bay gives it up to the run as well. On the fence with Darren Fells. You could have a better option, but I'm leaning starting Darren Fells in this one because I do believe it's going to be a shootout. Williams already talked about. Even if Aaron Jones does play, I would still be okay starting Williams. Houston is the bottom three in the league and giving up rush yards. So, yeah, go ahead and start Williams either way. Benching MVS this game, I just don't know if there's going to be enough to go around. He's a deep sleeper for me. If you're a deep league or you are in desperate need for a wide receiver, I would consider him, but otherwise he's a bench. Both defenses, this is going to be a super shootout. It has all the makings of a super shootout. If it's not, I'm going to be shocked. Sit both defenses here. The Chiefs versus the Broncos, AFC West division rivalry matchup. I'm starting Mahomes and CEH, no-brainers there. Lindsey, the Chiefs give it up to pass-catching speedy back, so Lindsey is a definite start this week. Kelsey's always a start. Hill's always a start. I'm starting Patrick this week because they're going to have to throw, and Patrick is their guy right now, so I'm starting him. On the fence with Gordon, I don't know what's going on with him. DUI, illness, whatever. I don't know if he's going to start or not. Watching an inactives report on him. If you need another running back, I would think about starting him, but I'm leaning Lindsey over him even this game. On the fence with Fant, again, injuries. He's had a lot of injuries. If he's healthy, I'm going to start him because he is pretty decent, and Kansas City's secondary is a little porous. Benching any and all Denver quarterbacks the rest of the season. This game, I'm benching Le'Veon Bell. It's his first game with Kansas City where I believe he is eligible to play. I don't like him this week. Next week against the Jets, that's another question. Jerry Jeudy hasn't been getting enough work. He just is not getting it. Tim Patrick is getting too much, and their quarterback situation's been shaky, so I'm sitting Jeudy. Hardman, not enough to go around. Too many mouths to feed here for Hardman and Robinson, and Kansas City is not going to have to throw it all game against Denver, so sitting those guys, benching them. Here we have the Bucks versus the Raiders. It is on high alert COVID watch. High alert. Be ready to have backup players to play for any of these guys in case this game gets postponed and pushed to next week. It is in danger of that. You did have Trent Brown got sent home, followed by the rest of the offensive line for the Raiders got sent home. So it does look like they are going to play. They're leaning play the game right now, but the Raiders could be missing most or all of their offensive line, which is not good for them playing this hard-nosed Tampa Bay defense. I'm starting Rojo this week. Vegas is really bad against the run. I feel like this is going to be a defense takes the ball away, and Tampa Bay is going to ground and pound the whole time. Fournette is healthy, so I could easily start Fournette as well this game. He's on the fence, but I'm leaning start him. I think this is going to be a dink and donk game with Waller and Gronk, so I'm starting both tight ends here. Tampa Bay defense, they will be the superstar of this game. I could see them easily putting up 20, possibly 30 points this game. That's nuts. A defense being talked about possibly being put up 30. It's possible. No offensive line for this Raiders. That Tampa Bay defense, Derek Carr might as well just write out a will because he's going to get put down. On the fence in this one, I have Fournette. I'm leaning start on him. I do think it's going to be a ground and pound game, and he is healthy now. I'm leaning bench Brady, Evans, and Godwin because I don't think Tampa Bay is going to have to throw hardly at all this game. It's going to be defense, pounding the Raiders, and a heavy dose of run, just carving that defense up. The Raiders' defense is terrible against the run. This is a perfect recipe for Tampa Bay running backs and defense to take this game over. Ruggs, I'm leaning bench Ruggs. I wasn't until this lineman thing happened, so now I'm leaning bench Ruggs because he's a downfield threat. I don't think he's going to have enough time to get downfield to be a threat. Bench Josh Jacobs in this one. Josh Jacobs has struggled against good defenses. You look at week 1, he did well against Carolina, who has a bad goal line defense. He didn't even have good yards per carry that game. It was just 3 goal line touchdowns. And then last week against Kansas City, who gives it up to running backs, he did well against them. Every other defense, he hasn't done jack. You put him against Tampa Bay, top 2 running defense, allows less than 70 yards rushing per game in the league. I am sit Josh Jacobs. I'm screaming it from the mountaintop. Sit Josh Jacobs this week. I would put in McKissick over Jacobs. I would put in Fournette over Jacobs. Sounds crazy, I know. Sit Josh Jacobs. I'm sitting Miller. Not going to be a heavy passing game. Sitting Carr. He's going to be made into mincemeat. Sitting Brait. Sitting Las Vegas D. They're not going to do a whole lot. They're going to get carved up on the ground. Sitting Aguilar. Not going to be able to throw. They're going to get beat up. Niners versus the Pats. I'm going to start both defenses in this game. Denver did pretty well against New England last week, and San Francisco's defense is much better than that. So I'm definitely starting San Fran's defense. And New England's defense, I don't trust Garoppolo as far as I can throw him. And New England's defense is pretty good up front. And they got Gilmore, so I'm starting both defenses in this game. Kittle, always start him if he's healthy. I start James White this week. He became Newton's lead receiver last week, and I don't expect that to change this week. McKinnon, I'm starting him until Mostert comes back. McKinnon has done pretty well in every game Mostert has been out. I'm on the fence with Edelman. I'm leaning start because I did hear that both of San Fran's starting cornerbacks are going to be out this game. I mean, New England's pass offense is not good enough for me to want to sit San Fran's defense, even with their 2 starting corners being out this week. But it does think maybe I should play Edelman. Samuel and Ayuk, those guys are so similar skill sets. It's hard to pick which one each week. I'm on the fence. I'm leaning Samuel before Ayuk. I'm leaning sit Ayuk. I'm leaning start Samuel if you're desperate. Bench Garoppolo. I never trust Garoppolo. If he's playing a fluffy defense, I might put Garoppolo in. Otherwise, I'm benching Garoppolo. I'm benching all San Francisco running backs that are not McKinnon. I want to see what Hasty does. And I believe Jeff Wilson is hurt. He probably won't play. So if you're not McKinnon and you're running back in San Fran, I'm benching you. Same with New England. I'm benching Harris. I'm benching Burkhead. And then I'm benching Bourne and Izzo as well. Those guys just haven't done enough for me this year. The LA Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love Justin Herbert. I was able to trade Josh Allen because I picked up Herbert, and I'm rolling Herbert pretty much the rest of the season. They have a great schedule. Starting Herbert, starting Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen's going to be back from his back spasms. He had a bye week to get over it. He should be okay. Going to start Herbert, starting Allen, starting Hunter Henry. I'm not a big fan of Henry. I do think he's overhyped, but this is a very easy matchup. I'm starting Hunter Henry. Starting Robinson, easy matchup. Starting Cole. Cole has been coming around the last couple weeks. Last week, I believe he had over 150 yards receiving and a good amount of targets. So I'm starting him and his quarterback, Gardner Minshew, Mr. Mustacho. On the fence with Mike Williams. The Chargers' last game, I believe Mike Williams got the work he did because Keenan Allen went out so early in that game with those back spasms. Keenan Allen's back is better. I'm leaning sit Williams. If Williams performs again this game, he could be a starter going forward, but not this game for me. Chenault, their usage of him has been very spotty, very sporadic, and I don't like it. I think they should start using him more. I like him, but their usage of him has him on the fence, leaning bench for me. In this game, benching Jacksonville tight ends. I don't know who that tight end is. I could look it up. Not gonna. I know Eifert is out, so benching Jacksonville tight ends. I'm benching Kelly. He hasn't shown me enough, hasn't got his legs going. Even against a easy matchup against Jacksonville, I just don't like Kelly unless you're very desperate on running backs and you're in a deep league. I know there are a lot of injuries. Otherwise, no Kelly. Chark has been all over the board this year. He's been hurt. I don't like Chark. I think Minshew's gravitating towards Cole. and I'm benching Chark this game, and I'm benching both defenses. I think this should be a decent scoring game, and I don't think these defenses are going to get a whole lot of takeaways. Neither one of them are very high caliber right now. Chargers were once upon a time, but too many injuries, so bench both defenses. The Seahawks versus the Cardinals. In this game, I'm starting both QBs. This should be a shootout. I could see Seattle beating up on Arizona, but at the same time, they're still going to throw the ball. It's not going to be a blowout. So I'm starting both QBs. I'm starting DK. I'm starting Tyler Lockett as well. Lockett hasn't done a whole lot lately, but I do think Arizona's secondary is porous enough where I'm going to start Lockett. I'm going to start Carson and Drake. Both those running backs should eat this game. I'm going to start Hopkins if he is healthy. Hopkins has an ankle problem right now, so I'm kind of worried about him a little bit. I'm monitoring him. Christian Kirk, I'm starting regardless, but if Hopkins is out, definitely him. I'm on the fence with Will Disley. Arizona has traditionally given it up to tight ends, and Will Disley is starting to come around. Yeah, getting a red zone target here and there from Wilson. They really killed it last year. I do like Disley to pick it up rest of season as it goes along. Watch him. Bench Edmonds, yeah, Drake. Maybe Drake is healthy now. I don't know. He had a walking boot on week 1, and he played piss poorly up until last week, and then all of a sudden Drake killed it. And now, since Drake killed it, he might be healthy. Edmonds might take the back seat, and he might be a bench going forward. Sadly, I was high on him, and not anymore. Bench Arizona tight ends. You don't play tight ends against this Seattle defense. They do give it up through the air, but their linebacking core is strong, and they do stop tight ends. Bench both defenses. Shootout. Don't do it. Shootout. The Bears versus the Rams. In this one, I'm starting David Montgomery. He catches the ball a fair amount. So he is a start going forward against most matchups. Allen Robinson, he is the number 1 receiver there, and I'm not sitting him against the Rams defense. Jimmy Graham, he's been getting his lately. There's not many tight ends that I would start over Jimmy Graham. Maybe 6 of them. Cooper Kupp, I'm starting Cooper Kupp. I do think that the Chicago defense is going to try to cheat up a little bit, maybe try to box in Robert Woods to shorter routes. And I do see Cooper Kupp maybe snagging a long one, nice long touchdown for us this week. He did it a couple weeks ago. I think he's going to do it again. Goff, I'm not leaning on starting Goff this game. If you're desperate, start Goff. If not, sit him. Both defenses I'm on the fence with. I do like the Bears defense with their possibility of lots of sacks and turnovers. Same with the Rams because both quarterbacks are semi-suspect in this game. But if you have better options, I'd sit them. I would go Bears before Rams. But if you have better options, sit them both. Robert Woods, I'm on the fence with. If you don't have a better option, which is very possible, you could start him. But there are a lot of teams that are heavy on receivers, including myself right now, and I am sitting Robert Woods this week. I am benching Nick Foles. There's probably not going to be a matchup where I start Nick Foles at all this year. I'm benching the Rams running backs. McVay again is like baby Belichick. I don't know what to do with those running backs. If you're desperate, I guess you could pull one of them out of a hat and cross your fingers. Rams tight ends, recent development. Higbee is hurting. Higbee is going to be a game time decision, I hear. So if Higbee does not play, then I'm moving Everett up into the start. The danger with these Rams tight ends is there's 2 of them, and not one of them gets enough work at the moment. So if one of them is out, the other one is a start. So look at Everett if Higbee is out. Miller hasn't done much with Foles, so I'm sitting Miller. He's going to have to really have a good game or 2 for me to change my mind otherwise.
These are my deep sleepers. Keep your eye on these guys. I like Preston Williams. If Tua likes him going forward, we'll see if he develops a connection with Tua. He could be a threat down the road. Rivers likes to mix the ball around a little too much. You got Johnson, you got Pascal. If he picks a guy like he usually does in the past, he picks a favorite, that favorite will become very fantasy relevant. So watch all the Indy receivers. Watch for Rivers to week in and week out start targeting a certain guy. If that happens, that guy's going to be golden. Keelan Cole broke out again last week at 150-plus yards. Minshew seems to be favoring him with Chark out. I don't know when Chark gets healthy if that's going to still be good or not, but definitely keep your eye on him. Roster him if you want. Greg Ward, he and Fulgham are the only 2 options. I love Fulgham. He and Fulgham are the only 2 options for Philly. So in an easy matchup going forward, Greg Ward could be a decent starter. Tight end, Burton. Rivers loves his tight end. Burton has to fend off Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle. If he can do that, he will be a great starting tight end going forward. Goddard is still out another week or two. Ertz is out a lot longer. So those games where Goddard comes back and Ertz is still out, Goddard is going to kill. And if you want him for those games, you have to pick him up now. Running backs, Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards has an amazing fantasy playoff schedule. The Ravens have the Jaguars and the Giants. The Ravens are going to whoop them so bad in those games, they're just going to run Gus Edwards down their throat. Boone, watch the Cook and Madison situation. Madison didn't play well, maybe a little banged up. Cook, always injury prone. Maybe he's coming back this week. Maybe he's not. Keep your eye on Mike Boone. D'Ernest Johnson, he was supposed to take over like a half Chubb role. Half Chubb. He was supposed to take over a half Chubb role, but he had two bad matchups in a row. He had Indy and he had Pittsburgh. Those are terrible matchups. This week should be the telling tale if D'Ernest Johnson is going to be a half Chubb or not. JaMychal Hasty, he's going to get early down work with the Niners. Mostert is out. So if he can turn that early down work into something, he's definitely a good stash. This week will be very telling with him as well. McKissick is taking Gibson's job slowly but surely. So put McKissick in, or pick McKissick up, I mean. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been another episode, Week 7 of Start, Bench, or On the Fence with Fantasy Nuts with Ryan Almond. If you liked it, please like it. Please subscribe. The more the merrier. And I thank you again. I hope you win your fantasy football matchups this week, and have a great weekend.